Please don't touch that dial, because coming up right now is part 3 of Dick Dinman's Journey to the Center of Pat Boone. WMPG, Gorham, Portland. Hi, Golden Age film fanatics, and welcome to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. My name is Dick Dinman, and our goal is to become your exclusive guide to the very best of the Golden Age classics coming out on DVD. We'll have reviews, breaking news of upcoming releases, plenty of surprise guests, and a special feature devoted to the great Golden Age film composers, which we call Cinemusic. So let's turn on the marquee and lights, camera, action. It's time for Dick's Picks, in which I get to shine the spotlight on one of my Dick's Picks of the week. Twilight Time proudly announces their stunning limited edition Blu-ray release of Jules Verne's classic adventure tale that captured the imagination of cinema-goers as few films had done before. The one, the only, the original, The Journey to the Center of the Earth. Braving exploding volcanoes, tumbling rock slides, and flesh-eating reptiles, James Mason co-stars along with song and screen icon Pat Boone in a phantasmagoric thrill ride of an adventure that's certain to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is James Mason. Come along with Pat Boone and me, Arlene Dole, Diane Baker, and Gertrude the Duck, and discover sights and sounds and wonders no living man has ever witnessed before, filmed in the incomparable magic of CinemaScope. We'll take our leave of civilization on the bleak, barren wastes of Iceland, peer in awe at the bottomless crater of an uncharted volcano, make the perilous descent into the unknown. You'll pioneer with us through countless miles of trackless labyrinths, discover huge subterranean caverns never beheld by human eye, become lost in the weird underground maze. You'll find yourself engulfed in grotesque, petrified jungles, marvel at the fantastically beautiful quartz grotto, tumble into cascading salt beds, escape from hissing steam caves, behold the staggering underground ocean. You'll encounter breathtaking dangers beyond belief, here at the center of the Earth.
Twilight Time's The Journey to the Center of the Earth in the wonder of super high-def Blu-ray and the magic of 4.0 DTS HD sound is being released in a limited 3,000 units. Once they're gone, they are gone, and is available exclusively online at screenarchives.com, even as we speak. Stay tuned for more Dick's Picks, coming up on DVD Classics Corner on the Air very soon.
Thee I love more than the meadow so green and still, more than the mulberries on the hill.
And that, of course, is the unmistakably melodic voice of once-in-a-lifetime song and screen icon Pat Boone, who I'm honored to have as my guest as he shares the triumphs, trials, and tribulations of his starring role in The Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I also heard, and this is part of the Pat Boone legend, that not only did you turn down the opportunity to appear opposite Marilyn Monroe, but and this could be apocryphal, but when you were doing April Love,
Oh, yeah.
did you balk at kissing Shirley Jones?
I did, and boy, this is making me sound like the nerd of all time.
Well, I must say,
But I
Shirley
did.
Jones at that time was adorable.
Oh, yeah.
And I would not have turned down that.
Between you and me, I wanted very much to have an excuse to kiss her.
Yes.
And I did not refuse.
Oh, really?
But there was not. See, the first film, Bernadine, there was no real love interest. All of us kids were in love with a fantasy woman named Bernadine Mudd that we made up. And that had been a Broadway hit, you know. Margaret Chase, I think, wrote it, and it had been a hit on Broadway without music. So now we add music, and we got a musical, but there's no real love interest. And now I'm right into my second film, April Love, with Shirley Jones, and there was no kiss in that script. So at the end of a music scene at the fair in I guess Lexington, as we're filming it then, it reached the end of this song. Shirley Jones and I are in the seat on the Ferris wheel, and as it comes to a stop, and so does the song, the director, Henry Levin, said, now as it ends, you lean in and tenderly kiss Shirley Jones. And I took him off to the side. I said, Henry, this wasn't in the script. He said, no, but this is a great way to end this scene. The audience wants to see you two kiss. I said, you know, because it wasn't in the script, I haven't even talked to my wife, Shirley, about me doing kissing scenes in the film. And see, I didn't know this all happened so fast. We hadn't discussed the kind of roles I might do or love scenes. So I said, look, let me talk to my wife, Shirley. Sure, I would love to kiss Shirley Jones, and I know it's good for the film, but I don't want to come home tonight. And Shirley said, well, how'd your day go? And, it went great. I spent half the day kissing Shirley Jones. and I said, can we do this later in the film? So at another point. Well, reluctantly, he said, okay. But he thought it was funny, so he told somebody, and the next day, literally the next day or the day after, it was in the trade papers, Pat Boone refuses to kiss leading lady. And they assumed, because they hadn't interviewed me about it, it was for religious reasons. And it wasn't. I just wanted to stay married to my wife, Shirley. And we talked about it that night and over dinner, and she said, okay, I understand. I'd already thought about it. If you're going to do movies, there'll probably be some love scenes, but promise me you won't enjoy it. And so I said, okay, I promise. And I came back really the next day to tell Henry Levin that, yes, I would kiss Shirley Jones in the next appropriate spot, mainly on the lips. The next spot in the film. And he said, great, but then he showed me the trade papers. He says, it's already out that you refused, and the telegrams and the letters came pouring into the studio. Stick to your guns, boy. Finally, somebody with morals in the movies, and I was stuck. I did do another story. In fact, Buddy Adler released a story to the press right away, saying that after discussion with the director, that Pat Boone, had relented, was going to kiss Shirley Jones in the film. And I had a talk with him. I said, Mr. Adler, that makes it seem as if I overnight just surrendered a religious objection or principle. And I'm really now caught. So I didn't kiss Shirley Jones in the film. And I saw a screening of it recently. And we get to this place on the Ferris wheel, and sure enough, boy, I'm leaning in, and she's talking, just the two of us, and we're getting closer, and we're obviously strongly attracted, and we're an inch apart, and we're about to kiss, and actually going to do it, and then we've reached the end of the song and the bottom of the ride, and the guy interrupts me, and so I don't kiss her, and I feel bus interrupt us. I think, wow, that was so dumb, but in a way, it was tantalizing. It was young love. It was innocent, and in its own way, it was sort of erotic. So later in the film, we're in the barn, and the two of us, we've just saved Tug Fire, and again, the music's swirling. It's romantic, and we're obviously very attracted. But I'm a kid from the wrong side of the track. She's from a nice family, and so I don't kiss her there either. I never kissed her in the film.
Well, again, another DVD Classics on the Corner on the Air exclusive, because you've just introduced a term which will, I'm sure, go nationwide: bus interruptus. Some people may think it has something to do with the transportation system,
yes.
but we won't.
No transfer. No.
We won't worry about that.
We pause now for station identification.
DVD Classics Corner on the Air is proud to be a presentation of Southern Maine's own WMPG FM, 90.9 and 104.1 on your dial. Now, Pat, I heard that there was a point during the filming of Journey to the Center of the Earth where you were actually in some kind of danger. Is that true? Or?
Well, I was within 60 seconds of death, yes.
How so?
It was a scene in which Alexander McEwen, my character, is lost, separated from everybody else, down in the bowels of the earth. It's very hot. We're getting closer to the center of the earth, and I cut off my pants up to made shorts out of them. And while I'm doing that, I'm sitting in what looks like a pool of something white. I tasted it, and I say, salt. I spit it out, salt. And so it's this pile of underground salt. And what it was little tiny gypsum crystals, plastic, non-soluble.
Oh.
And just hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and sitting over a trap door, because the scene calls for me to reach out for my lamp or my canteen that's sliding away. And when I reach out for it, the ground gives way beneath me. It was a trap door, and these several hundred pounds of gypsum crystals, and I fall about 3 feet onto a mattress, and to mattresses. And they're shooting it about 4 different ways because it was a complicated thing to set up, and they only want to do it once. If we don't get it the first take, it'll take a half day to set it up again, and that's very expensive. So we rehearsed all the action a number of times till we knew exactly what was supposed to happen, what the cue would be. And I reached out, and for my canteen, I think it was, and the sign is given, and the trap door falls, and I fall, and these hundreds of pounds of gypsum crystal fall all around me and over me. And I was warned by the director not to raise my head, because if I raised my head too soon, it would spoil the shot. So I'm dutiful, and I keep my head down when I fell. Now, what I don't think I realized, I don't remember being told that overhead there would be several hundred pounds more of these crystals falling on top of me, and it was to create the flow of the scene in which, in consecutive shots, I would be seen sliding and falling through an underground tunnel with all of these gypsum, supposedly salt crystals all around me.
Mm.
And one of those turbulent things, a shocker,
Yeah.
So I had to keep my head down. Well, I didn't hear Henry Levin yell, "Cut." In fact, I don't think he had. Or if he had, I didn't hear it, so I'm there, and I'm being buried alive. And I hear him say to camera 3 in the catwalk up there somewhere, "Camera 3, did you get it? Let me check the gate, Mr. Levin. How about you, camera 2? Think so, in just a minute. Camera 1, And meanwhile, a guy up on the catwalk said, "Mr. Levin, you better get Mr. Boone out there." And oh yeah, cut. Meanwhile, my nose, I was frantically trying to keep my nose above this. All of this stuff was piling in over me, burying me alive. I couldn't move my arms or legs. And I knew this stuff, if I sucked it down my lungs, and I was about to have to take some deep breaths, I was about to smother. And once I took deep breaths, all that stuff was going to come flying into my lungs, and it would never come out. Oh. And I might, I mean, it would not dissolve.
No.
I would have to have my lungs replaced or something. And so they jumped in, and a couple of guys, and drugged me up out of the pit that had been created, and started getting all this stuff off my face and out of my nose. And I don't think I ever inhaled any of it. If I did, because I was taking tiny little gaspy breaths, but I couldn't keep that up. So I came very close to being either permanently incapacitated or dying. And yet it just was one of those quick scenes. It went by so quickly.
Also, what happened when you were finally pulled out?
Well, there was great concern about whether I had inhaled a lot of that stuff. Nobody thought about that. Nobody anticipated it, certainly not I or the director or anybody. And so we got the scene, but they only had to do it once. And there was yet another time. No, that was in another film entirely.
Which film? Main Attraction?
Yeah, the Main Attraction on the trapeze.
I figured that.
Yeah, because the stuntman they brought in to do the scene 30 feet above the floor in London with no net, he'd been working on Cleopatra and dissipating with Richard Burton at night, and he couldn't do what they asked him to do. I'd been working on the trapeze for a couple of months, and it got to where I could do this, what the scene called for, to swing out from a little tiny postage stamp platform, swing out about 30 feet and come back in an arc and pull myself up over the bar. And when the stuntman couldn't do it because the cameras were above shooting down, he was filling in for me, and they couldn't have a net, and he couldn't do it. So I convinced the director to let me do it, because I said, look, it'll take a blowtorch to get my hands off that bar. I will not let go. And so I did what was required, and then I had to hang from the bar while they brought in a net that I could drop into. But that was a very, very dangerous thing. And but they let me do it because, again, it would have taken tens of thousands of dollars to bring in another stuntman. And
yeah, but they shouldn't have allowed you to do it unless it was the last day of filming and all of your scenes were in the can.
I wonder about it myself, except they had seen me do with the net. They had seen me do everything that this stuntman was supposed to do without it. So they knew I could do it. Mm. And I don't know what went through their minds if he slips off the bar. He's 30 feet up in the air over a concrete floor.
It's crazy.
But I did do it because they'd seen me do it many times, and this poor, out-of-shape, debilitated stuntman couldn't do it.
I will tell you this, that in a few days I'll be interviewing your Main Attraction co-star, Nancy Kwan.
Oh, wonderful, good.
So
I wonder where she's been these last few years. We came in contact a couple of times, but we had a wonderful time filming that. And of course, in a way, you'd say she was very miscast. She was a Eurasian girl playing a young Italian, but Ray Stark figured that didn't matter, and so it didn't seem to matter to anybody. The only trouble was that they put a bed scene in it, which was not in a script, and I would not have agreed to do because I was still worried about my young fans. And Ray Stark, while we're in England doing the film, he had John Patrick, Academy Award writer, rewrite the scene in which Nancy Kwan's character and I, escaping from what we feel was a murder, turned out not to have been a death, but we think we're running away from a murder. and escaping from this traveling circus. And we're in this Swiss chalet, abandoned chalet that just happened to be there. And so we're strongly attracted to each other, the characters, and so they changed the script to have us get into bed together and have the night. And I, speaking of Jimmy Stewart, I felt my character, the reason I wanted to do this, was attracted to the character, was that he was a ne'er-do-well, amoral guy who begins the movie living with, oh goodness, the actress, great British actress.
I've never seen it, so I can't help you on
Zetterling.
that. Oh, my Zetterling. She was
Zetterling.
Swedish.
Oh, Swedish, yeah. And so I'm her kept boy, her boy toy. And no morals. And to fall for this virginal young Italian girl, played by Nancy Kwan. And we wind up in this chalet, and I know I'm running for my life from a murder, that I killed a guy who was to protect her. But now we're attracted, and we're going to have sex, and I realize I'm going to leave her the next day and maybe never see her again, and I don't want to take advantage of her this way. And so I, in the original screenplay, resist the urge, and we don't get in bed together. Well, they rewrote it, and now they're demanding that I get into bed with her. And I was going to leave the film and come home.
Really?
But my attorneys said, if you do, you don't have script approval, and they'll sue you for the several $million they've already spent on the film. So we filmed it two ways. One in which we got in and pull up the cover together and turn off the light. The other, which they used in the film, we're kissing, and then we lower ourselves onto the bed, and a hand reaches up and turns out the light. The next morning, when the light comes up, I'm shaving, no shirt. She's still in the rumpled bed, and feeling for where I had been, until it's obvious we've been in bed together for the night. And that's what they used in the film. Now, in Boston, imagine, they still had a censor board, and they temporarily banned the film.
Oh.
And Ray Stark was ecstatic. He said, great.
Great publicity.
Great. Pat Boone's film banned in Boston, because he had bought my contract from 20th and wanted to launch me, like Dick Powell, into a dramatic career, and singing once in a while maybe, but, dramatic roles. And he thought, this is great. So they billed the film. The advertising slogan was, Pat Boone's in trouble with that Susie Wong girl.
Wow.
Well, that was what the film was really a romantic adventure. That's the way they should have billed it, a romantic adventure film, and my fans and hers would have been attracted. But they bill it as Pat Boone's in trouble with that prostitute, Susie Wong.
Wow.
And my fans, a lot of my fans, or at least I say fans, at least people that would have gone to see a Pat Boone film with their family, stayed away.
Yes,
So-
but Pat, you could not have gone on indefinitely
No.
in the same mold. But on the other hand, I'm surprised in a way that you would play a quote-unquote immoral character. When Dick Powell made his transition, he played Philip Marlowe, who
I know.
who was marginally a hero.
Oh, sure, and that's what if I was going to do dramatic films, that's what I wanted to do. But I saw this, and it's not as if I had a lot to say about it, because Stark bought my contract from 20th, so now I'm obligated to do a film, and the film I agreed to do, I portrayed a character who had a change of character, like Jimmy Stewart. I always thought of it, Jimmy Stewart played a couple of, in fact, I don't know if it's...
Well, Jimmy Stewart, went pretty dark in the 50s.
But there were films in which he would come to a crisis,
Right.
and choose the good over the bad,
Exactly.
even though it's not what he had done before, and it would be costly or something.
Mm-hmm.
And when he played Wonderful Life, he got so discouraged that he he wanted to kill himself, and he was being brutal to everybody, including his wife and his kids. I mean,
Yes.
he was just blowing it. And then he had an awakening, an epiphany, and I saw this role as one in which a guy who had no morals developed some morals and some integrity because of his love for this virginal girl. That's the way I was looking at the role. And so I could see that. I mean, I knew there would be times when I would certainly play against my own real-life character.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said I would play Judas in the story of Christ. I'd play Judas because maybe my character would be unsavory, but the film had a good moral point.
Exactly.
And in this case, as it turned out, was in the greatest story ever told later, but I played the angel at the tomb who spoke the most, I think, the most significant words ever spoken. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. And I spoke those words. I didn't have to play Judas. I got the role George Stevens gave me of the angel at the tomb. And John Wayne got the one, surely, Pilgrim, this was the Son of God.
Oh, well, he didn't say pilgrim,
He didn't say
but
pilgrim.
he might just as well have.
He probably slipped a couple of times.
Pat, I want to thank you so much for your generosity in appearing on this show and being such a wonderful guest. All of us have enjoyed your work so much over the years, and all I can say is keep on being Pat Boone, because there's no one else like him.
Well, I obviously, as I've detailed here, I don't seem to be able to help it. I hope people don't think I'm one incredible prude.
No.
Because, I am not. But I felt a sense of responsibility, particularly to young fans, and if I had any influence in their lives, I wanted it to be a good one. And I wanted to make films that my own kids and grandkids could see. So films, music, television, all of that, I wanted to be Mr. Family, because that's really who I am.
Well, it worked so well, and you're completely irreplaceable. I am so glad to finally have you as a guest on the show, and you've exceeded all of my greatest expectations.
Well, good, and I have enjoyed it very much, too.
I'll look forward to having you back on the show to discuss your next film, which you mentioned earlier, The Cabbage That Ate Cleveland.
And I do have a couple other good stories to tell you, too, about films I've already made.
And Cooga Mooga can have a percentage of The Cabbage That Ate Cleveland.
Yeah, well,
How generous.
I think if I make that film, Cooga Mooga will be the sole producer. I don't think there will be a co-producer on that one.
Well, that's my show for today. DVD Classics Corner on the Air is conceived, written, produced, and directed by me, Double D. And if you missed any part of this show, or if you'd like to hear some of my other latest shows, just go to the archives section at www.wmpg.org. And if you'd like to hear some of my older vintage shows, please go to www.dvdclassicscorner.net, where in addition to the broadcasts, you'll find hundreds of my print reviews of classic DVD releases. So, until next week on WMPG,
keep well, keep happy, and keep listening.